You're listening to the Jets Factor on SoundCloud.com and the Grandstand Sports Network.
Third down snap. Sanchez to the end zone over Arrington, and touchdown, New York, Santonio Holmes.
Now, here's your host, CJ DeSimone.
What's going on, Jets Nation? DJ the Painkiller DeSimone here, and welcome to another edition of the Jets Factor podcast here on SoundCloud.com and the Grandstand Sports Network. Today, we're going to be going through a couple of things. Leonard Williams. Breaking report, I do not know if it's true or not, trying to do the research to find out if it is, but there is some stuff on Twitter going around at him being arrested for marijuana possession. Don't know what the hell that's all about, but we're going to continue to monitor the Twitter timeline, and I'll bring you updates as they appear. Bye-bye, baby, bye-bye. Mo Wilkerson finally getting cut by the New York Jets. We already knew that was going to happen. Also, another raging debate between fans and whether or not they should sign Kirk Cousins as the New York Jets starting quarterback for next year, plus a lot of talk about the draft and who the Jets should take with the number 6 pick. But first, let's have a word from our sponsors. The Jets Factor podcast on SoundCloud.com is sponsored by the following entities. By Big C's Barbershop. When you need an old school cut, Big C's is the place to go for all your grooming needs. Call 772 area code 663-4440 or search up Big C's Barbershop on Google Plus to book your appointment now. Big C's is the place to be. By thegruelingtruth.net. The Jets Factor podcast is now accessible on thegruelingtruth.net. For a wide array of sports coverage, thegruelingtruth.net is your place to go. Gruelingtruth.net, where legends speak. By www.nyjetfans.com, your number one source for everything New York Jets, including yours truly's podcast. For a limited time, tees are on sale at nyjetfanshop.com for only $10. Get them while supplies last. Again, www.nyjetfans.com. And, of course, don't forget to check us out on the Grandstand Sports Network. Just go and check us out, grandstandsportsnetwork.com. Give those boys a follow at grandstand_S_N. All right, boys and girls, we got a lot of stuff to talk to.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Yeah, there's a lot to talk to. There's a lot to talk about, believe it or not. You know, a lot of people want to say that there's really not a lot of news going on in Jets land during this offseason. But you know what? I say the complete opposite. You know, let's pick on Mo Wilkerson to start off with. The Jets finally parting ways with Mo Wilkerson. We all know that was going to happen. Jets were trying to trade him, couldn't get jack shit for him. So it was best to send him on his way. Now, if you actually think about it, you know, for the time that Mo Wilkerson has been here, we really honestly only got maybe 2 good years out of him. So, naturally, during the course of the year when we talked about this, and I brought this up on one of my past podcasts, I definitely encourage you guys to go and check out our archives. One of the things that I talked about in regards to Mo Wilkerson was that he played when he felt like playing. And most of the time, he just didn't feel like playing. You know, he decided to wake up 4 games into the season and then all of a sudden have a breakout game. And then when he makes a tackle or he makes a sack, he jumps up and down like a friggin' idiot because he thinks he just made the game-winning tackle in the Super Bowl. You know, this is not the type of player that I want on my team. I want someone who is going to play from whistle to whistle, from the starting gun to the ending gun for a full 60 minutes of football. Not just show up on certain plays when he feels like it, or show up on certain plays when it looks like he's got a clear-cut tackle and he could just step in and be the hero. Enough of this garbage, okay? But the one thing that really soured me to Mo Wilkerson toward the end of his tenure for the New York Jets is plain and simple. When you stood up in the middle of the season having a press conference with the New York media, or pretty much the national media, and someone is going to ask you whether you feel that you've earned every penny of your if you feel you've earned your contract. Okay, and for you to come out and to be completely crass and such an arrogant douche and say, yes, you feel like you earned every penny. Meanwhile, week after week after week, we just see you out there and you're practically non-existent in games. The whole purpose that you were signed here with the New York Jets is you were signed and drafted to be a difference maker, to actually anchor that offensive line. And for a little while, okay, with Muhammad Wilkerson, with Sheldon Richardson, you know, that perfect swarm defense, Snacks Harrison when they were there, you know, they did, but the problem was that they couldn't sustain it. And the reason being is because they just felt like they got too big for the game. That's my personal opinion. You got Sheldon Richardson, who was acting like a complete jackhole, all right, who ended up getting his ass traded, which was one of the best things that Maccagnan could have done, because there was all kinds of dissension within the locker room. And now you have Muhammad Wilkerson, who constantly shows up late to meetings, constantly shows up late to practice, comes and goes whenever he pleases, but yet Todd Bowles is going to hold the younger players accountable, but they're not going to hold Muhammad Wilkerson accountable. Then all of a sudden he's going to throw a little bitch fit because he gets benched and he gets deactivated for the rest of the season because, again, he wants to violate team rules. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Jets are undergoing a culture change in which none of this bullshit is going to be acceptable in the future. Plain and simple. So if Muhammad Wilkerson is your main culprit, it makes sense for you to get his ass out of here because he's setting an example for younger players to follow. And if he's not going to set the correct example, if he's not going to be all in on his workouts, all in on meetings, all in on player film review, all in on the defensive meetings, etc., whatever cliche you want to throw out there, if he's not going to be all in and he's not going to give himself team first, then he needs to go. And that's exactly what the Jets did. And, you know, it makes absolute sense for the Jets cap-wise because they've now increased their cap by $20 million, which now puts them at a little over $90 million with cap space. I'm sure with a little bit of the maneuverings that are going to be coming in weeks to come, you know, the Jets could be upward of $102, $103 million when it's all said and done. Plenty of ammunition to go after Kirk Cousins, but that's another subject that we're going to talk about later on in this podcast. But as far as Mo Wilkerson goes, aside from the 2 good years, good riddance. Here's your hat. What's your hurry? Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. And this was a smart decision by Mark Maccagnan. I applaud him. And you know what? The main thing is that, you know, the village idiot is gone.
Is there a village that needs its idiot back?
You know, and that's pretty much exactly what it was. So Muhammad Wilkerson was the village idiot, and he needed to go because he's disrupting the culture in the locker room. But I digress. All right. So now let's switch gears here. I want to talk a little bit about Dylan Donahue. Okay. Dylan Donahue, the 5th-round pick of the New York Jets, gets his stupid ass arrested for DUI, driving the wrong way up the Holland Tunnel. You know, one of the things that aggravates me about players, about professional athletes in general, is that when you have that title, professional athlete, it almost acts as if it's a get-out-of-jail-free card. And it also acts as if you have the right to go out into public and to act like a complete and utter douchebag without any type of repercussion coming your way because your quote-unquote people are going to take care of it. That may be true for some people, but not for a 5th-round pick like Dylan Donahue, who spent the majority of the season last year being injured and who was one of the very few bright spots coming out of training camp last year, who we expected to have an impact on this team, at least me personally. I can't speak for everybody else. All right? But there were times when Dylan Donahue was on the field and he made some good plays and he made some impact plays and made his presence felt. And I really thought that as the season progressed that he was really going to start to blossom into a nice core linebacker that the Jets could possibly insert and build around. Okay, but he ended up being injured and ended up spending the rest of the year on injured reserve, Why on God's green earth are you getting behind the wheel of a car, piss-ass drunk, driving the wrong way through the Holland, the Lincoln Tunnel, whatever the hell you were going? Are you stupid enough to not realize that you could have killed somebody, let alone yourself? And you know what? My theory on drunk driving is this. If you're an idiot who gets drunk and you want to get behind the wheel of a car and you want to turn yourself into a big red spot on the side of a divider, go ahead, be my guest. Because you know what? Nobody's going to cry at your funeral because you were a douchebag for getting behind the wheel in the first place. All right? But when you're going to start putting other people at risk, then you know what? That's knowledgeable neglect. Because regardless of the fact that you were drunk, you know what the hell you're doing. You can't blame it on the alcohol. Okay? I'm sorry. And Dylan Donahue, if I'm the New York Jets, your ass is cut. Because we don't need that shit around here. If you really want to institute a culture change and you really want to have a zero-tolerance policy and you really want to send, most of all, a message to the rest of the NFL with free agency period coming in that, look, we want strong, high-character guys here. We don't necessarily want choir boys, okay? But we want strong, high-character, locker room guys here that are going to be team-first oriented and are going to understand that there are franchise rules, team rules that you need to abide by. And regardless whether you're wearing the team's jersey or not, or when you are out in public, you need to conduct yourself like a professional and not like a blithering idiot like this moron did. Okay? Because let's put this all into perspective. What if he would have ended up getting into a head-on collision? What if he would have ended up killing somebody? Okay? Do you think that he would have gotten another chance like Dante Stallworth? Do you think that a fifth-round pick who nobody has jack shit invested in, you think that they're going to go and they're going to prop up this kid? Look, if the Tampa Bay Bucks could get rid of ASJ for his DUI, and then he ends up on the Jets and he turns his life around, that should be a message that should be sent to the entire NFL, that if you act like a douchebag, you need to be gone. So I will not lose any sleep whatsoever if I see Dylan Donahue on the waiver wire within the next couple of weeks. Because if I'm the Jets, I get in front of this quick. I tell him to pack his shit and get the hell out, that he's cut, and that sends a clear and distinct message to everyone not only coming in, but those still on the roster, that this type of behavior, this type of attitude, this type of response is not going to be tolerated at one Jets Drive or in Florham Park. Because it's time now for McCagnon and for Bowles, if you really want to complete this culture change, if you really want this culture change to take root, then you need to start putting boot to ass, and you need to start letting these people realize that behavior like this is unacceptable and is not tolerated within the New York Jets organization on any level. Time to put your big boy pants on and to make a decision. That's my opinion on that. Now, since we're talking about being arrested, again, there's unconfirmed Twitter reports, which I woke up to this morning, about Leonard Williams possibly being arrested and marijuana being involved. I don't know if that's true or not, because I'm scrolling through the rest of the timeline and I have not had one person say anything. I've not heard anything from Rich Cimini. I've not heard anything from Anish Mehta. I've not heard anything from the New York Post. So for right now, that's an ongoing story that we don't even know if it's real or not. So just keep that thought at the back of your head if you see something with Leo Williams' name pop up on it sometime over the next day or two. All right? So now let's transition out of that, and we'll talk to the big thing that everybody wants to talk about. The Jets have all this money. They want to go out and sign Kirk Cousins. But now the Jets have to compete with the Minnesota Vikings, who apparently are going to let Teddy Bridgewater become a free agent. They are not putting the franchise tag on Case Keenum. Sam Bradford, who the hell knows where he's going. Okay, hopefully he's packing it in and calling it a career. Okay, the Jets now have the Arizona Cardinals they need to contend with. They have the Denver Broncos they need to contend with. They now have the Minnesota Vikings they need to contend with. And anybody else who's a quarterback-needy team. Okay, the Cleveland Browns, although I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to Cleveland, so I don't even know why we mentioned them. But they're the only other team in the NFL right now that have more money than the Jets to throw at Kirk Cousins. Now, you guys know a few weeks back I put out an article about it, which the New York Jets, it's time to fix the problem. On Full Press Coverage _Jets. I invite everyone to go out there and take a look at it. Don't forget to give those guys a follow at Full Press Coverage _Jets on Twitter. Go find those guys. Go give them a follow. I wrote an article for them a few weeks back. I put it on paper, and I'm sticking by it. This is what the Jets need to do in free agency, and I'm going to repeat myself just in case there are people out there that maybe didn't hear it the first 50 times that I said it. The New York Jets need to pull out every single possible weapon they have in their arsenal to attempt to sign Kirk Cousins. Plain and simple. You go after Kirk Cousins. You make the phone call to Joe Namath. You call Don Maynard. You call Emerson Boozer. You call all the former Jet greats. And you bring them up and you park your asses in front of Kirk Cousins' house. You bring the fright crew, okay? If you have to go and superimpose Kirk Cousins' image on the side of the Empire State Building with him in a Jets jersey and how awesome he will look in the middle of the city of New York to seal the deal, you do whatever it is that you need to do. But you find a way to get that man signed. And if he doesn't sign, I want Jet fans to understand it is not the end of the world. Because then McCagnon's choice becomes incredibly clear. You don't go after a Teddy Bridgewater. You don't go after a Tyrod Taylor. You don't go after a Sam Bradford. You don't go after a Case Keenum. You don't talk to the Philadelphia Eagles about Nick Foles. You don't go and talk to anybody else in the NFL about some other scrub that could be lying in the weeds. Okay? You don't sign Kirk Cousins. You turn to Josh McCown, who's already in-house. You sign him to a 2-year sweetheart deal. First of all, saying thank you for everything you did for us last season. And number two, you are making him the de facto bridge quarterback to whoever it is you are going to draft with the number 6 pick. I will talk about that in a little bit. There seems to be a raging debate, though, going on in Twitterland about the signing of Kirk Cousins. Now, look, I want to bring up a good friend of the show. He is a time-to-time contributor when he comes on. I love to hear his insight. Always calls in to the Let's Talk Jets radio show with Tyson Roger, Long Beach Joe. Gangrene David, okay? You could follow him at Gangrene David, at Gangrene David 1, okay? He apparently got into some sort of a heated debate with a gentleman by the name of at Adam the Rant. Okay? I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall. But apparently the debate was making the argument for the Jets to go out and get Teddy Bridgewater. Okay? Although I admire Teddy Bridgewater, I admire what he brings to the table. Here's the problem with Teddy Bridgewater. Having Teddy Bridgewater there, after coming off a catastrophic knee injury, you don't know what kind of a quarterback he is going to be. So, signing Teddy Bridgewater is not going to be the answer to solving your New York Jets franchise quarterback question. Don't get me wrong. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I would love to see him come back and be a serviceable NFL quarterback from such the gruesome injury that he suffered last year. All right, but let's face it, we're not talking about Randall Cunningham. We're not talking about Donovan McNabb. We're talking about Teddy Bridgewater here. So make no mistake about it, although there are some Jet fans that do like Teddy Bridgewater and would like the idea of bringing him in to one Jets drive to have him be the starting quarterback of the New York Jets. I don't think right now at this moment in time it's feasible, only because of the injury risk. Now, let's just say for shits and giggles, okay? The Jets go. They don't sign Kirk Cousins. They make a panic move and sign Sam Bradford, which I will epically rant to no end if they do that. And not only do they sign Sam Bradford, but here's the perfect absolute storm. With the number 6 pick, they go and they pick Josh Allen, who for all accounts has been equated to Christian Hackenberg 2.0. That would be the perfect cocktail, number one, for me to mainline Fireball on the air. Number one. Number two, the entire Jet fan base would probably erupt in such disgust and dismay that Mike McCagnon would probably not be able to show his face anywhere in the city of New York, let alone around the Jets facility, without getting something thrown at him. And number three, the complete utter embarrassment that would probably take the field this upcoming season. You're going to lose season ticket holders in droves. There is no potential way that the scenario that I just spilled out for you right now, that could ever possibly take place and will ever let the fan base recover. There will be billboards all over the city calling for McCagnon's head, should that take place. So now you're probably asking, well, what does that have to do with signing Teddy Bridgewater? Okay, here's the shits and giggles. Let's say that scenario played out, and that's exactly what the Jets go through the 2018 season, and we end up finishing 4-12. Let's say. Teddy Bridgewater somehow gets signed to a one-year deal, a one-year show-me deal someplace. And he actually does fairly well. Could the Jets revisit the Teddy Bridgewater issue a year from now? Possibly. Anything is possible. I mean, what the hell? They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. You can't get any worse than that. Ryan Fitzpatrick had one good career year, and then the next year he shoved the football up his ass. And then badmouthed the franchise when he sucked, blatantly sucked, got benched for Geno Smith, and then had to go back in, and he badmouthed the franchise again. So, I mean, if you're going to bring a douchebag like that in, anything's possible. But the case for signing Teddy Bridgewater this year is just not there. The case for signing Tyrod Taylor is not there because the Buffalo Bills are not going to let Tyrod Taylor walk. That's already evident. The only way you're going to get Tyrod Taylor is you're going to need to trade assets in order to get him, and I don't think he's going to be worth whatever you trade for him. Period. Sam Bradford, I don't want anywhere near the frickin' New York Jets facility. If he's anywhere in New York State, somebody needs to just shoot him. Your answer is clear, as I've spelled out to you before. You can't sign Kirk Cousins. You re-sign Josh McCown. You call it a day. You draft your quarterback at number 6. You guys have already known who I want. I want either Baker Mayfield or Lamar Jackson. Those are my 2 picks. Okay? If Josh Rosen were to fall to number 6, or the Jets were to somehow make a deal with Cleveland to go up to 4 and to get Josh Rosen, I wouldn't be too disappointed. But I just think that either Baker Mayfield or Lamar Jackson, I think, would be a great fit in New York Jets green and white. And again, strictly solely my opinion. Everybody out there has got their opinion. They don't think that Kirk Cousins is worth $30 million, $32 million a year. But you know what? That's what he's going to get. And it's unfortunate because this is what the quarterback market has been set. Thanks to Mike Glennon last year. Thanks to Jimmy Garoppolo this year. I can't wait to see what Aaron Rodgers' contract is going to be when the Green Bay Packers re-sign him. You know, it's when we take a look at quarterbacks and we take a look at these contracts that are being dished out, you know, the money that these quarterbacks are making is just utterly ridiculous. Absolutely, utterly ridiculous. I mean, the insanity just flows freaking wild. It really does.
Are you insane?
So anybody who would go and dish out that kind of money for a starting quarterback, you know, you are really, really, really taking a huge risk. But here we go, and we take a look at Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins bet on himself for the past 2 years, and he made himself close to $43 million over the past 2 years with the Redskins franchise tagging him, while on top of it having less weapons and having maybe a mediocre offensive line, still throwing for over 4,000 yards. But his record against winning teams, or teams above 500, does leave a lot to be desired. But how much does that rest on the shoulders of Kirk Cousins, and how much rests on the shoulders of the lack of weapons that are around him within the offense? So there's a lot of different things. That's why I don't really take that record into account. But that's been brought up a lot lately, and I think it's worth mentioning. So my argument for Kirk Cousins is, if he's the guy that you want, then you go all in and you go get him. If you don't get him, you stabilize your quarterback position right now with a guy who's already been here, who knows the system, who's familiar with Jeremy Bates and Josh McCown. You sign him to be your starter, and he's going to be your de facto bridge to whoever you take at number 6. But like I was discussing with Scotty Mason from Play Like a Jet and several others yesterday on Twitter, the Jets can't just have one name. You have to have a short list of quarterbacks in the draft if you're going after a guy in the draft. And you have to be all in on those guys. Like, this is our number 1 choice. If this guy's not available, this is our number 2 choice. If this guy's not available, then this is our number 3 choice. You have to do your homework, and you have to have your guys lined up 1, 2, 3. And whichever guy is there, whether you stay at 6, whether you make a package deal to move up, whoever you feel is on your short list, on your number 1, then you got to go and get him. If that person is Sam Darnold, then you go get him. If that person is Josh Rosen, then you go get him. If that person is Baker Mayfield, then you go get him. Okay, and this is where, we look at McCagnon and it's like, look, don't be a bitch about this. Do your homework, sit down, make your short list, and go after it. And stop saying, well, we looked at this guy, and he looks okay, and then we went to go take a look at this other guy, and he was a little okay. He was a little bit better than the first guy, but, because then there are Jet fans that are going to want to jump through the TV and choke the shit out of you. So don't be a bitch. Make your friggin' decision and get it over with. Okay? Because you still got other areas of concern on this team that you can't afford to sit around and pick your ass and let the time pass you by. Such as bringing in a number 1 receiver. Everybody keeps talking about Allen Robinson. I would love to see him in green and white. And I hope they go out there and they go get him. You got 2 centers, one from Washington, one from Baltimore, which are going to be available this free agent season. Go ahead and get one of them. Start to rebuild that offensive line, which we've been screaming about all friggin' year. Okay, you've got cornerbacks out there, serviceable and good cornerbacks that you could be able to go get. There's been different reports that the Jets are looking at Malcolm Butler. Bring him in. Kick the tires on him. The Patriots don't want him. We'll take him. Can he still come in and can he still be serviceable? Bring him in and find out. Bring him in on a 1-year show-me deal. Okay, but you do whatever it takes. It's not time for you to pinch pennies and to be frugal about it. You've got over $90 million in cap space. You've got plenty of opportunity to fix this football team and to not hinder the rebuild, but to move the rebuild along. You upgraded certain positions. You move the rebuild along. And that's the key to what Mike Maccagnan needs to do. All right? So, I'm going to end today's Jet Factor podcast here at this point. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out to listen to the podcast today. Don't forget, you could follow the Jets Factor podcast at CNC Jets Factor. You can follow me at JetsFan0523 on Twitter. Shoot the show an email, thejetsfactor@gmail.com. We take any and all questions. Okay? Don't forget to give us a follow, give us a like. You can find the podcast on Google Play. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on the Grandstand Sports Network. You can find us on thegruelingtruth.net. We are all over the place. Whatever podcast vehicle you have, just search out the Jets Factor podcast, and you will be able to get me front and center, coming to you, talking to you on whatever device it's coming from, whether it's at your PC, your mobile device, your MP3 player, whatever. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to listening to me, and we will be back very, very soon. The new NFL calendar starts March 14th, I believe. So we will be kicking it off. Plus, April's going to be a very special month for the Jets Factor podcast as we are coming up on our 6th anniversary. 6 years of bringing you New York Jets news, facts, entertainment, everything. So, with that, we will see you guys when we see you guys.